What's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you while shopping? I was at Target and someone in the next aisle over yelled Marco and naturally I replied Polo. They then said that's not funny. But that is funny. I was once peed at by a total stranger in a grocery store parking lot. I was on my lunch break and I'd stopped at a nearby Winn-Dixie to get something from the deli. As I was walking towards the store, a motion caught my eye. I looked over to find a man sitting halfway out of his car, but on the seat but feet on the ground, and peeing. We made eye contact. I was totally dumbstruck, so he cackled and waggled the dang thing at me, spraying pee all over around his feet. I still don't know WTF to think. Because of Winn-Dixie. Went to the bathroom at a Kroger and heard a homeless guy moaning very audibly in one of the stalls. Thought he was whacking it, so I hightailed it out of there as fast as I could. When I left it was just me and the homeless guy in there, but about 10 seconds after I get out I see the bathroom door open, and 2 homeless guys walk out. Homeless mitosis. I saw a 50-year-old guy taking a crap in the urinal at a Barnes & Noble. He pulled up his pants right as I walked in. The stall wasn't even occupied. He chose to use the urinal. Me and a friend enter local Speedway. As we cash out, man comes around the corner with no shirt, pants or underwear. As he walks by to check out greeting cards I notice he has crap covering his leg. We all stand in total scleance as cashier rings us up. Pick coming. I saw a man masturbating at a Barnes & Noble too. A barista in the cafe yelled for security. The man started to run. Another customer decked out in full cowboy gear, boots, hat, everything leapt out of his chair, chased him down, and held on to him until the police arrived. Actually not the weirdest thing I've seen while shopping, but had to share considering the similar circumstances. I have a good Barnes & Noble story. I was in the sci-fi section browsing when a little boy, couldn't have been more than 7, came running into the aisle and sat down about 5 feet away from me. He was holding what looked like a giant photography book. He nervously glanced up and down the aisle to make sure the coast was clear. He then started to flip furiously through the pages of the book, which of course turned out to be a Kama Sutra guidebook complete with real live pictures of various positions. My jaw hit the floor and I started laughing out loud, but the kid didn't even notice I was there. I tried to ignore him and keep browsing, but this kid's face was priceless. About a minute later his dad found him and gave him the most furious talking to I've ever witnessed in a store. Poor little guy didn't even put up a fight. Poor little guy didn't even put up a fight. Oh come on. He was in no position to put up a fight. I worked at a bookstore for a while and occasionally we would have to push up the ceiling tiles in the men's room to check for books. Usually we would find a few gay magazines. We would throw them in a box and return them to the vendor. At the Westfield Mall in SF, 2 women in front of me got on the escalator with a dog. Just before I was about to get on, the dog dropped a gallon of diarrhea. I managed to jam the anchors on before getting on what was now a crap coaster. The most foul thing I've ever smelled. I dread to think the amount of maintenance required to clear that up. And I do not envy the mall cop posted to guard it. I feel lucky I don't have that kind of bollocks to deal with to earn a crust. Oh yeah, the kicker. It was the escalator to the food court. Grim. Wasn't that crazy, but it sticks in my mind. Crazy would be the smack addict I nearly had a fight with after he made a grab for someone's food at the table next to me. Terrified the poor lady. Your dialect sounds like you come from a dystopian British future. Thought you should know, friend. I was in a supermarket buying groceries, and I was in the meat aisle. It was a reasonably crowded supermarket, and not in a bad neighborhood either. There was an Asian family shopping. It was an older, 40s, woman, a younger woman and 2 young kids. They were minding their own business looking at some meat. A large dude walks by and starts looking at steaks. He picks a couple up and puts them in his handbasket. Nothing strange. I'm minding my own business, so I don't really know how this happened, but I hear him yell out, "You freaking gooks," and the sounds of people struggling, then someone falling. When I turn around, I see the 2 again women on the floor, yelling loudly, with their kids also yelling. I also see a pee-off dude walking away muttering something. I then notice the steaks littering the floor, and a pool of what I can only assume is pee on the floor. Apparently, one of the kids pee on the floor, and the guy got angry and then slapped the 2 women with some steaks. I was utterly dumbfounded. Not me personally, but my sister. A dude in Walmart was following her around, approached her in an aisle, got down on his knees and started touching her shoes feet. Guy was making weird sounds too. Cops came and took him away after Walmart security found him lurking in the store afterward. My sister was mortified. Poor guy just wanted to shine her shoes. Shortly after moving to a new city, my younger brother and I were attending an outdoor summer market type thing. Think farmers market and kitschy hippie stuff. And once we'd had our fill of hemp products and falafel, sat down at the bus stop to get a ride home. It wasn't more than 2 minutes after sitting down that a mime, fully decked out in classic black and white striped mime getup, face paint and everything, comes running past us. And I mean booking IT as fast as his little mime legs can go. We barely have time to comprehend what the heck that was when this huge, screaming, shouting mob of clowns, at least 15, maybe twice that many, come bolting after the mime like a stampede. We watched them chase him at least 4 blocks until we couldn't see them past the traffic anymore. I still have no idea what happened there, and I can only hope that mime wasn't brutally clowned to death. Race wars. I've told this story before, but it's relevant. One time I was in Walmart checkout line and a man in a full body banana suit sprinted all the way across the entire front of the store and out into the parking lot. This was one of those massive Walmarts, and I happened to notice him just as he ran in the door at the far end. Following him, close behind and sprinting like his life depended on it, was a man in a giant gorilla suit. I swear none of the shoppers in the store noticed except me. TLDR. Man in gorilla suit chases man in banana suit through Walmart as I watch, wondering if I'm dreaming. A friend and I did that for Halloween once. I was a banana, and I ran down the main bar strip in our college town thinking only my friend was giving chase. I turned around to see not 1, but 8 gorillas chasing me. A guy kissed my foot in Walmart once. I am so gullible. He told me he was doing a project for an art class where he had to take pictures of the bottom of people's feet. I had flip-flops on, so I thought what the heck. He was behind me with his cell phone camera, which should have been my first clue. He raised my foot up, and he just started kissing the bottom of it. Needless to say, I was totally creeped out. I was walking into a Kmart and this guy runs out of the store and throws this woman up against the wall. She starts screaming and struggling and the dude starts punching her in the stomach. I ran over to break it up but was stopped by a cashier. It turned out she had stolen a pair of shoes and the man beating on her was store security. I was astounded that actually happened. She need to steal faster shoes. I was walking through the bathroom section of a large department store with all the different display bathrooms when all of a sudden a voice says, "Don't you know how to knock?" I had to do a double take to confirm what I was seeing, but there was a guy sitting on one of the display toilets, reading a newspaper and taking a crap. I told him he should have locked the door, and he looked genuinely furious about it for a few seconds before calmly going back to his newspaper. I moved slowly away, walking backwards, and left him to it. I used to work in a Home Depot style hardware store. People crapping in the display toilets is not nearly as uncommon as it should be. A friend of mine, blonde female, went to a gas station in a ghetto part of Binghamton, NY. She's walking in to pick up some snacks when a huge black dude looks at her and says, "Hey baby, I'm gonna make your pee fart." She turned around and came back to the car. Pretty much all of Binghamton, NY is ghetto now. I used to work for Barnes & Noble, and one day my manager came up and asked me if I could clean up a mess in the men's restroom. I expected it to be vomit or poop or something. What I didn't expect was German hardcore pornography magazines spread all over the handicap stall. The guy had even ripped out individual pages and folded them so he could stand them up on the handicap rail in the stall. Beyond the pages being all over the place, there wasn't any other sort of mess, which I was thankful for, and I will say I appreciate him bringing his own pee and not destroying the magazines we sell in the store. My worst shopping experience would definitely be the time I got food poisoning shortly after going to the mall on a Friday night. 1 hour earlier, my 2 buddies and I picked up Taco Bell on the way to our mall. Taco Bell often gave me the runs and the occasional Trojan horse farts. It's not just air, but never anything like this. Fast forward 30 minutes. We arrive at the mall and I start feeling a bit queasy, but I think nothing of it and decide to walk in. The next thing I know, I started getting that severely nauseous saliva buildup in my mouth, shortly followed by the bath chills, goosebumps, on the back of my arms and legs. I knew at this point that I had about 20 seconds to find a bathroom. Those 20 seconds ended up being about 5. So, instead of a bathroom, I end up barfing sideways into a food court trash can while holding the push lid. Not only did I feel terrible from the sickness, but I was greatly embarrassed as this was dinner time at a very busy mall food court on a Friday night. After barfing in this trash can, I found a bathroom and washed my face. Convinced that I was over it now, I decided to continue shopping despite my friend's best efforts to take me home. We were heading to the arcade. I couldn't simply go home instead. I should have listened. I ended up puking in another trash can while walking around the mall. Deciding it was time to leave, I hastily made my way into the parking lot but ended up barfing on the brush of the street cleaning vehicle that was next to our car. I ended up spending the night in the hospital and I've never eaten a Mexican pizza from Taco Bell to this day, 10+ years later. For a guy who had to puke in public 3 times, you got lucky every time. Pulled up to a McDonald's drive-thru at around 1 AM on a Friday night. One car in front of me at the speaker. Woman in the car gets out of the driver's door, crouches behind it, and takes a pee. I reverse and drive the frick out of there. Not exactly shopping, but I was at UC Berkeley with some friends at night. We were high and we wanted to smoke more weed in the beautiful woods by one of the creeks that run through the campus. So we went off the path in one of the more remote areas of the campus and sat in a circle to light up. We had been smoking and speaking in whispers for about 20 minutes when we heard something creeping through the woods. Paranoid and stoned, we felt unearthed. It sounded like a person and it was someone hunched over and creeping not 20 feet away, having climbed over a fence. At first freaked out, the figure soon stepped into a sliver of moonlight and we saw who it was, a sorority girl in full partying attire. She proceeded to strip off her jacket, sweater, skirt, tights, and underwear, stack them neatly, and pee on the ground, before dressing again and returning to where she came. She will go to her grave never knowing that she was in full view of 4 stoned students huddling in the bushes not a stone's throw away, barely suppressing giggles. 2 weeks ago, Black Friday, I was wandering around the movie section in Target when I witnessed a 14-year-old girl sitting in a shopping cart pushed by her mother. I'm assuming I was already judging at this point, but it gets better. I start to wander off when I hear a shriek. Look over just in time to see this little bee shovel half a shelf worth of crap onto her lap, while screaming I don't care. It's Bieber. Her mom didn't even so much as blink, just let it happen. You could almost see all of the lost hope in her eyes. Some wide-eyed woman with frizzled hair came up to me while I was in line at Walmart and told me how much she loves Walmart since they give her liquid codeine. Not crazy, that shoots pretty good. Not my story, but a friend of mine worked at a Barnes & Noble that someone died in. How did he die? Masturbating in their restroom with pee all over the floor. It was a 1-seater restroom. He wasn't discovered until the end of the workday. When I was in 7th grade, I had to walk down this forested path on behind my school where a very dirty homeless man would spend his time drinking booze. Along the path was a centuries-old long red brick wall that surrounded the school. One day in the morning I walked down this path when me and some schoolmates saw this man standing at a section of the wall. As we came closer towards him he started laughing like a madman. Just as we were about to pass him he pulled down his pants, bent over and started spray pooing the wall with some considerable force, all while still laughing. I ran away in shock, myself laughing at what I had just witnessed. On my way home I walked back to inspect the spot with a huge crap stuck to the wall. It took a few rains for it to wash off. Spray pooing. I understand the concept, I've just never heard it expressed quite so well. I wasn't the one doing the shopping, but I was working at a popcorn shop in a shopping center. One day I was sampling some of our goods to various shoppers when I heard 2 women yelling at each other. I turned and saw these 2 overly rotund ladies screaming at the top of their lungs at each other, with a small girl who was no older than about 8. The screaming was something along the lines of "you let go of her US" and so on. and that's when the fist started flying. Needless to say, there was a small crowd now gathered around these two ladies, including myself, simply watching this POV. Margarito of the rotund woman variety. Switching back to salesman mode, I went around the small crowd sampling our popcorn and saying things like, how about a snack while you enjoy the fight like a true showman. I got the most sales that day thanks to two fat women having a stoush in front of our shop. I used to work at Victoria's Secret when I was in college. You wouldn't believe the number of times we've had to call security for guys that come into the store to practice taking the bras off of mannequins. Most of the time it's guys trying to practice the one-handed fold and twist removal technique, or trying to sneak in some private time with the lacier undies, or coming up to me and asking which positions can my girlfriend do in this while holding up intricately intertwined lingerie, or asking for my phone number, in a store where you're traditionally only there if you already have a girlfriend. But my favorite would probably be the homeless guy that ran in and tried swallow as many thongs as possible from the frontal display table before the cops came. I think he ate 12 or so pairs, something in the low double digits. One time I was really high with my girlfriend shopping in Toys R Us when suddenly I looked to my left, and a masked young adult, about 5'11", wielding a foam sword appears at the end of the aisle. He proceeds to come closer in an awkward sidestep triple threat pose that soon becomes some kind of gallop. He gets to me and stops, looks at me, corks his head to the side, and then winds up with the sword with no intentions of slowing down his swing. So I had to dodge it and started running. I was really high and panicking, so I thought the best thing to do would be to hop on a small bicycle, I was 19 at the time, and try my best to escape. So I'm hauling butt down one of the main aisles, when I notice that my girlfriend is nowhere to be found. So I start head back to where we were to look for her, where I find the masked stranger cornering her. My instincts took over, and ended giving this dude a swift kick to the left temple, which made him fall like a sack of potatoes. After much questioning, turns out the dude was severely autistic and had ran away from his caretaker while they were at a nearby Kmart. He just wanted to play. Never felt worse in my life. TLDR. I was really high and roundhouse kicked an autistic man in the head at Toys R Us. Man, all I got at the bicycle bit was this mental image of a fully grown man on a tiny monkey trike. Gold. I was at a Walmart at about 9 PM on Valentine's Day picking up milk or whatever for my mom. I'm walking through the aisles, minding my own business, when I walk up to this old guy who's blocking the aisle. We make eye contact. I nervously smile and say excuse me and try to get past him. Before he moves out of my way, he leans in close to me and whispers, "Happy Valentine's Day" gingerly in my ear, then winks at me and lets me pass. I never went to Walmart after the sun went down again. I was at Old Navy once, waiting for a friend to come out of the dressing room. All of a sudden I feel something behind me, and before I could react, a strange man has his chin on my shoulder and starts sniffing my hair and nuzzling my neck. I turned, hightailed it out of there, and haven't been back since. Not really crazy. Once when I was walking into an Albertsons, I saw an old man, probably around 70, riding his cart down a small slope in the parking lot. It's the little things, I guess. This'll get buried, and it's incredibly creepy. Several years back in this time of year, my sister had a dance performance at a mall. It was some children's Christmas thing, and some older guy stood behind me when I was watching. My mom glanced over for 5 seconds, then yanked me away. He was masturbating behind me. I was 8 at the time. My school had a shuttle to and from Walmart on Sundays. One Sunday I was waiting outside with some others from my school, and we saw a man walk out with one of those puffy winter jackets wrapped around his waist and his jeans in his hand. We were all watching very confused as this man partially naked exited the store. He walked over to his car, parked in the closest handicap spot, opens up the door and drops his coat just before he gets into the car. Trying to wrap my head around this, my school had a shuttle to and from Walmart on Sundays. I saw a man crap himself while I was grocery shopping with my wife. This guy is walking down one of the aisles and I hear thlurp thlurp. I look and see this rather large redneck wearing coveralls with a brown watery trail stretching out behind him. He did not even seem notice or care. The really shocking thing was that his wife GF was walking beside him and did not even seem to notice either. The runner-up is when I was at a Chipotle and this strung out homeless woman comes rushing in and makes a beeline for the napkin dispenser and starts grabbing wads of them as fast as she can. The manager comes and tells her she can't take all of those and she turns to him and in the loudest possible voice says, "I'm on my period. What do you want me do?" He just stares at her for a few seconds and tells her to leave before he calls the cops. When she left he apologized to everyone there and gave everyone a free burrito. I considered the day a success. I saw the guy whip out his dong and start jerking it in a Steak and Shake parking lot. 3 years later and we are still together. It's probably far too late for this to get noticed, nor was this while shopping, but a lot of these stories reminded me of something. My mom was a flight attendant for about 20 years. Back then, they didn't require large people to buy 2 seats. There was a passenger who was incredibly large. My mom said over 300 lbs. He apparently had some health issues and had to wear an adult diaper. Halfway through a full flight, the diaper apparently burst open and liquid crap covered the seat and floor. They had to clear that row and the surrounding rows. She said the entire airplane smelled like crap. Barnes and Noble as well. I was by the music books, which is by the restroom waiting for my buddy to come out. I hear my friend kind of yell at someone and I walk towards the restroom. About that time a guy who was about 8 inches shorter than me comes out buttoning his fly in a panic. I stop him and my friend comes walking out. I guess the guy was peeking through the crack of the stall and jerking it while my friend was peeing at the urinal. Luckily there was a cop in the store and he was arrested. From what the manager told us, the store had upwards of 20 complaints on someone having already jerked it or suspicion of jerking it in the bathroom. I guess this had been happening with another B&N across town. Different guy who was eventually caught. Why of all places would you choose a bookstore to peep and jerk it at? Apparently masturbating at Barnes and Noble isn't as uncommon as I thought it was. In the grocery store I see a kid, about 9 or 10, laying on the floor of the freezer section all alone, eyes open not blinking. I think frick this kid is having a seizure, so start talking to him. Are you okay? Where are your parents? Did you fall? That sort of stuff. The kid sits up but doesn't say anything at first. He just stares at me blankly. Then he says my mother's dead. The man shot her. I should mention that this was just before the last election and there were a bunch of anti-Obama protesters outside the store with Hitler Obama signs yelling at people. There were cops all over the place and a very creepy vibe in the store. At this point I don't know what the frick is going on and clearly this kid needs someone that isn't me to help him. So I say let's go find someone who can help you and we start walking toward customer service. As we pass the next aisle I hear a very angry woman say, "Michael, this woman is looking at me like I'm trying to take her kid to go work in my pedo factory." So I start explaining about him laying on the floor and that I was concerned that he wasn't well. Left out the dead mom thing. She says well he's supposed to be in timeout, then makes him sit on the floor while she walks off again. That was a weird shopping trip. Then he says my mother's dead. The man shot her. Poor guy was reaching out, giving you instructions. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.